Malchus. Um, almost the entire first page of this mimer, by the way, is taken up with a lot of technical things that the Rebbe speaks about. The Rebbe's approach is always he's elaborating on a mimer of a previous. He often picks a mimer of the Frierdiker Rebbe or the Alter Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek, and he elaborates upon it. This mimer, the Rebbe is elaborating on a certain mimer that came out, and in a long bracket, starting like from line 4 till the last line on the page, he discusses is this a mimer from the Alter Rebbe, and we found a piece of it in a mimer at Tzemach Tzedek, but we're going to skip out all that scholarly stuff. So don't get like discombobulated when we see that all of a sudden we're at the end of the first page. Okay, it's a mimer from Shabbos Parshas Noach, the 6th of Mar Cheshvan Tovshin Mem Gimel 1982. It says, after a Mabel, it says, Zois Ois Habris. This is the sign of the covenant, the promise that Hashem made to Noach, that he will not anymore destroy the world with a Mabel. As Kashti Nasati Ba'onon, I've placed my bow inside of a cloud. V'hoisa Keshes Ba'onon. And then the rainbow will be in the cloud as a remembrance for Hashem of his promise that he will not destroy the world anymore. There's a mimer on these psukim that were just now printed, in other words, in Tavshim Mem Gimel. And it seems to be this is a mimer of the Alter Rebbe. And like I said, for the rest of the page, the Rebbe is going to go back and forth about parts of it in Tzemach Tzedek's mimer and so on. Let's skip down all the way to the bottom. Last line on the page, line 23, right after the end of the brackets, the second word on the line. Maybe the mimer says, he brings in this mimer the question of the mefarshim that ask on this pasuk, they have their questions. And then, by mimer, kvaitushas admor at Tzemach Tzedek, and the mimer of the Tzemach Tzedek, B'tchilosai, at its beginning, Hetik es kol mefarshim b'shmam v'toichin devreim. He brought down all the mefarshim by name and the content of what they're saying. That was a style. Different Abbeim had different styles in the Mamarim. The Alter Rebbe would just refer to it in general, and the Tzemach Tzedek would often like quote and bring the names of the different mefarshim and so on. And the question that they all have is, Mao inyan akeshes nishchadesh achar mab. What's the idea of this bow, the rainbow that came about after the flood? V'hu ois bris chulu. It's a sign of a covenant. How do you do it? It's known shakeshes udavar tivi. The rainbows is a natural phenomenon. When the sun is shining on one side of the sky, and the opposite side there are clouds. Through that meeting up of the water droplets with the sun, that causes a refraction of light, whatever that means, and you have the different colors of the rainbow appear. So how can we say that this is a specific sign of Hashem? So he says in the second paragraph in the second page, line 8, that this will be understood before we even understand the idea of the rainbow. We need to understand the idea of the cloud in which the rainbow that Hashem said he placed. All of Namar is Kashti Nasati, that concerning the cloud, it says, I have placed my rainbow. So we need to understand the idea of the cloud. Beruchni is what the spiritual idea of a cloud is. So the Rebbe is going to explain in the in the cloud, in the spiritual, there are two levels. There is a positive idea of a cloud. Normally, we would talk about the cloud shows uncovering and darkness and so on. That would usually be more associated with powers of negativity, and we will talk about that as well. But there is a positive thing. The cloud, there is a level of a cloud that indicates a very high and lofty level. When it shines a very great revelation, that's impossible to receive that revelation because of how powerful it is. It's so bright, it's too much. Is hine b'shvil zeh, for this sake, tzrichim la'onon. You need a cloud. Shal yodei davke yicholim lekabel hagili. Only through it you can receive. It's like a filter for the revelation. And believe me, a lot of times walking to shul on Shabbos, and it's the sun is shining very, very strongly. We wish for a little bit cloud cover to filter out the rays of the sun, so it's not burning on our body that much. Valderach Masha similar to what it says in the pasuk Yishem Shemagen Havaya Lakim, that Shem Havaya and Shem Lakim are like the sun and its shield. The Kashem Sheyefshel Listakel B'Shemesh Elai De Magin, just like it's impossible to look at the sun, only through some type of shield, some type of sheath, some type of protection. So the same thing we say. So too, it's impossible to receive and to accept the revelation of the son of Yud Kei Vav Kei. You need to have the shield and the covering of Shem Elokim, and this is the similar to what Elokim does for the sun. The same thing the cloud also does. Let's skip the parentheses to line 21. That's the idea of the cloud of Matan Torah. It says that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Har Sinai, he came into the cloud. What was the reason for Moshe Rabbeinu needing to go into a cloud? You just go up on Har Sinai and go up to Hashem. What was the purpose of this cloud? Since the revelation of the giving of the Torah was a very high and lofty revelation, therefore, to be able to receive and accept this type of revelation, was necessary to have the garment, the covering, the filter of the cloud as a protection, so it doesn't overwhelm Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu should be able to receive it. To such a degree, to such a degree that the root of the cloud, it's not, usually we think of Elokim is lower than Havaya, conceals, it covers, so it's got to be lower. A Keli is lower than the Oir. Anything that's concealing is usually lower. But here we're explaining that to be able to have this power to conceal and this ability, it needs to be something that is actually higher than Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. It needs to be something that is greater than Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei to be able to do that. And where does it come? It comes the B'chinas Yashes Choshech Sisra. It comes from the level that he placed darkness as his hiding place. So Pasuk, it says in Tehillim that he makes darkness his hiding place, and that idea that darkness is considered his hiding place, that means that he himself can come down to darkness. In revelation, in light, the Eibishter himself cannot appear because he's too high to become revealed. He himself is found in the darkness. The same thing, the cloud really comes from a higher level, and therefore it has the power to conceal the light, and therefore it can also act as a filter through which Moshe Rabbeinu can go up and receive this higher revelation. That's also the idea of Ketores of Yom Kippur. That's also the idea that it says that the Ketores that was brought in the Kodesh HaKadoshim by the Kohen Gadol Yom Kippur, so the incense caused a cloud of smoke to fill the entire Kodesh HaKadoshim. So this cloud is something that's formed through the Avodah of Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is the Avodah of Tshuva. So therefore we find that the cloud, that's a result of the Avodah of Tshuva. And we know Tshuva is the loftiest Avodah, even higher than the Avodah of Tzaddikim. So therefore, in this way, the cloud is even higher than Revelation. Shehu ha'onon l'mal yusa b'darga achi naila shabai. In the positive aspect of a cloud in the spiritual realms, this is the most highest level of the positive level of the cloud. The Rebbe goes on, which is Bechinas Yoshes Choshech Sisra, which is the level that he places darkness as his hiding place. That is the positive idea of the cloud. Yesh Bechinas Onon Legreus. So then there's the cloud that's in a negative form. Hamoidal Inin Hayirida B'Yoyser. It indicates a great descent. Meaning, what is the descent? Like we said before, it's covering over, it's concealing. It's something that is not good for divine revelation. What is it? How does that occur? Because of the many chain descents of levels and the different curtains and separations, until we get to the level of the breaking of the vessels. So from the level of the cloud of Kedusha, Nishtalshul came down by chain descent. Skip the parentheses again. Bechinas Anon, the level of the cloud, Shu Helam Vehester Lagamri, that's complete concealment and covering. Because of this reason, because of the negative aspect of the cloud, Dimu Avoinus Upshoim La'anonim, the pasuk likens sins and more severe sins to clouds. Like it says in the pasuk, I've erased like a cloud your pshoim, and like a cloud your other types of sins called chatoim. Because this cloud, the negative cloud, is a curtain of separation. Like it says, that your sins would separate. Like it's explained at length in Tanya, that the idea how the sins separate between Hashem and the Yidden, and the same way the cloud is a negative separation between Hashem and the world and the Jewish people and so on. So the Rebbe says, everything the physical has its source in the spiritual, and often the same thing the opposite. The fact that two types of spiritual clouds are represented by two types of physical clouds. Line 12. Just like there are these two levels in the spiritual cloud. First, there's a level of a cloud which its purpose is revelation. You use it to filter and to rise up and to get to a higher level. Then you have a cloud that its idea is for complete and total concealment. Therefore, also in the physical clouds, there are two types of clouds. There are light clouds, porous clouds, not such dark clouds. We see, you go out into the street and you'll see sometimes very beautiful, fluffy, white-looking clouds, or sometimes you'll see heavy, dark, gray clouds. That the fluffy clouds could be even in a sunny day. You can even have these fluffy type of white clouds. But the very strong, dark, heavy clouds, those are really covering and blocking the sun. Shal Yadam, through these light clouds, that through these light clouds, sometimes you could even look at the sun through them and derive pleasure and benefit from the sun, at least momentarily, obviously. The Rebbe wants you to avoid looking too long. Exposure at the sun, they say, is unhealthy. Then there's clouds that completely darken. Concerning this, Chazal say, let's brought down the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe. It's a very interesting Maimer Chazal. It says, a cloudy day is as difficult as a day of judgment. What does cloudiness and a day of judgment have to do one with the other? Because the heavy clouds are representing the judgment and the severity and the concealment and the darkness that covers over on Kedusha, so therefore they are associated with the level of judgment. Now, we can answer the original question of the Maimer. The original question of the Maimer is that the rainbow seems to be a natural phenomenon. So the truth is that it's really an expression of a spiritual phenomenon as far as the world being able to receive this light of the rainbow, which it was not capable of receiving even physically before the Mabul. So he says in line 21, with this will be understood the idea of the rainbow. The rainbow came about, even the physical rainbow came about after the flood. Why is that so? Because the types of clouds were not refined enough to be able to have a physical rainbow. Because before the Mabul, the world was not refined. Therefore, the clouds were in such a manner that the sunlight could not break through them, could not permeate them, so that you should be able to see the sun through them. In other words, the physical was an expression of the spiritual. The world spiritually was very low, and therefore, because of that, the physical manifested that in only having these heavy clouds which block out the sun. And therefore, therefore there was no possibility to have the colors of the rainbow. As opposed to after the flood, through the flood the world was refined. So the clouds became much lighter, much more porous, much more fluffier that we see these days. But even in such a manner, in such a way that at least the sun will make it through to reflect and in the droplets of water in the cloud and create the colors of the rainbow. Line 26, last paragraph. This type of cloud, which is for the sake of revelation, also indicates on the idea of a tshuva. Just like the cloud over the incense cloud that was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim of Yom Kippur. That's a result of the tshuva of Yom Kippur. So now the Rebbe is going to say, what's the association between a cloud and tshuva? So the common denominator between both of them, the cloud and the tshuva, is that they're both coming from within, from below. It's not something that's from above. Tshuva is I was somebody else, I was something else, I was acting in a different way, and then I picked myself up and I changed. So that is coming from me. And the same thing, the cloud is a result of what's going on down here on this earth. The idea behind this is the kashem sha'anon pashas ksiva. Just like in the literal, the simple sense, how did the clouds come about? So it says, we had it in last week's parsha in Bereshis. It says ve'ed yala mina aretz, that vapor, steam, or vapor will rise from the earth. V'hishka goymer, and it will irrigate. It will bring the waters to the earth through the vapors coming, rising up and creating clouds. Sha'anon eid bamin haaretz, that the cloud, which is the vapor, comes from the earth. Because why is the physical cloud that way? Because it's indicative of something that's spiritually that way, the idea of tshuva, which comes from below. On the Baruchni, it's also the idea of a cloud spiritually. That indicates the avodah from below, the avodah of tshuva. So he says, where do we see this also? Another example of something that comes from below that has this special, unique property. So he's going to give another example. As it's known, there are three, for lack of a better word, atmospheres, sections, between the sun and the earth. The area, the area in outer space that's the closest to the sun is the greatest heat. The place of the sunlight, that's like, no, I'm sorry, not the sunlight, the outer space, that's like in between the area that's next to the sun and the area that's next to Earth, is actually coldest. And the lowest atmosphere in our air and Earth, that's closest to the Earth, the light of the sun, also expands much more powerfully, and it's warmer than in outer space. Why is that so? Because when the sun comes down to us, it hits an obstacle. It hits the earth. Because it cannot expand further. And therefore, that sun warmth is now bouncing off the earth. And in Kabbalah, Chassidus terminology, that's the rebounding light. Avodas Hatshuva is also called the light that comes from return, not the light that's coming from above, like tzaddikim, but like the light that's being returned to us. Second paragraph, line 11. Through the avoid of tshuva, in a way of a rebounding light, there becomes afterwards the rainbow, which is at its core, all the colors, according to Kabbalah and Chassidus, comes from three main colors. There's white, there's red, and there's green, or greenish yellow, depending on how we translate. That white symbolizes chesed, kindness, giving, expansion. Red symbolizes gevura, strength, might, severity, judgment. And the greenish yellow indicates a mixture, a level of mercy or great mercy. And these three coming together are a result of the avoid of tshuva. Because like we said before, it's kashti nasati ba'anon. That when you have the level of the anon, when you have the level of the tshuva, when you have the refinement of the world like after the mabul, so then you have these three levels, then you have a revelation of these three levels and a repair of these three levels and so on. So it says in line 13, the idea behind this is that the avoid of tshuva needs to be in all these three lines. A person needs to improve their level of chesed, they need to improve their level of din, their level of rachamim. Like the mimer of their ads, in a way of great mercy and compassion. Essentially, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya speaks about, there's the level of love of Hashem, that's chesed. There's the level of awe of Hashem, that's gevura. And then there's the level of serving Hashem out of evoking a great mercy on the soul. Brachmecha ram rachm aleinu, with your great mercy, have compassion upon us. Through the tshuva down here below, in these three levels of doing tshuva in the chesed, in the gevura, and in the rachmim rabim. So then, chesed in rachmim rabim, through that we nullify and we make stop the three lines of chesed, din, and rachmim, the way they're in klippa, the way they're on the other side. In the way that I've erased like a cloud, just like a cloud completely disappears, so too it's completely erased any negative things. Mechia gemura, complete erasure. In a way that's being refined. That's what it says in the pasuk. This is the sign of the covenant. As kashti nasati ba'anon, my rainbow I have placed in the cloud. Through the avoid of tshuva, nasa b'chinas on lamal yusa becomes the cloud in the positive sense. Sha'anonim evim es kol brachas, and we know that clouds are the harbinger, what brings all the brachas. Nasati yishmeichem be'itam, I will give the rains in their times. That's all the brachas are coming from the rains. Uba'efen shal bris, and in the way of a covenant, in the way of a promise, that the promise does not stop. That like Hashem promised, that all the days of the earth, of the planting season and the harvest and the cold and heat, that he enumerates over there, Vav Tkufas Hashanah, 6 different periods of the year, Lo Yishbois will not cease anymore. This is a promise. So again, we see that the cloud of Tshuva brings with it positive brachas in Gashmis. B'Yiseidim is even more so as Kashki Nosati Ba'anon. I have placed my bow and the rainbow in the cloud. So the Rebbe adds over what the Alter Rebbe says in his Maimer. What is this significance of placing my rainbow in the cloud? That it says an interesting thing in the Chazal about why it says Kashti Nasati Bona. Why does it say I placed my rainbow? There's some type of association over here between Hashem and the rainbow. What does it mean I placed my rainbow? So the Rebbe says in line 27, we could possibly explain in the idea of the rainbow that takes place through the cloud. There's something even higher than all the brachas we mentioned before that comes about through the cloud. Through the cloud, we said, comes the idea of tshuva, and there's the idea of the refinement, and there's the idea of the rains will come down, and all the things we spoke about before. But by placing my rainbow in it, there's something even greater. Like it explains in many places, what it says is kashti nosati goimer. So the Chazal make a play on words on kashti. Keshes could mean a bow, but there's also keshes could also mean something that's compared to something else. In the Lashon Gemara, there's a hekish, something that's compared. Kashti, what's it mean? Kashti, davar hamukashli, something that is compared to me. Shazel lamaylu mikol hagiluyim, this is higher than all revelations. Elohum mukashli. Rather, it is something that is compared, and it is something that's like me. Which means Hashem says that the keshes is so alike, it's likened to Hashem's very essence. So we, like it says in the pasuk in the Nevuos Yechezkel, Kamara Hakeshes Asher Yir Ba'anon, like the vision of the bow of the rainbow that will be in, or that is in a cloud. Umared Muskvoid Hashem is the image of the glory of Hashem. So we see that there is associated the rainbow and the beauty of the rainbow and the image of the rainbow is associated with Hashem's appearance. So by placing the rainbow in the cloud, the Eibush is not just sharing all the physical good that results from it, but he's sharing of himself as well in the in this resulting cloud of elevation of tshuva and so on. And then going back to what we said before, it's a bris. We said line 2. He says v'chol zo ba'ifn shel bris. All this is in the way of a covenant. Asher inyan abris, who the idea of a covenant is shema'achad es ha'ovrim bein absarim. It joins those that are passing through the parts. And the covenant was they split the animal in two, and two people went between them. Lias ovrim b'techkuf echad mamish, that they are like as if going within one entity. That's why you take one animal, split into two. Lias lachodim kechad mamish. It's symbolic that they are completely one. So when we say that Hashem made a bris, that means that this Kashti, this davar hamukashli, is in a way a covenant where we're completely joined with Hashem. But this will be also understood what's written in the Zohar. Also brought down the Amorim of the Rav Marash. Do not look forward to the footsteps of Mashiach. Till this rainbow will be seen in the world that is adorned with luminous and bright bright colors. What's the association between Mashiach and the rainbow? So he says, because the rainbow indicates the avoid of tshuva, like we said before. And in all the three lines that's hinted in the previously mentioned colors. Therefore, that's when you could look forward to the footsteps of Mashiach. Because the idea of Mashiach is the idea of tshuva. Mashiach is going to come to make tzaddikim do tshuva. Through revealing the spark of Mashiach that's in every tzaddik. Through that, the general Mashiach becomes revealed. So that's what it means that Mashiach is going to come to make tzaddikim do tshuva, because it's necessary to reveal the Mashiach in the micro, and when you reveal the Mashiach in the micro, so then you're going to have Mashiach and the revelation of Mashiach in the macro. So the Rebbe concludes with the bracha, "B'yiratzu should be the will of Hashem." Through our actions of service for the time of goals in general, especially through studying these matters in the Torah. Will be the idea of remembrance above from the general covenant of Noach. It says that Hashem remembers the covenant that He made with Noach. And we're going to speak soon. We had some psukim on Rosh Hashanah, psukim zechroinus. Especially what will be remembered is the rainbow that's in it. That's a Koran, the Noach, this remembrance of Noach move. Again, the psukim zechroinus, the Rosh Hashanah is also brought down in the psukim of zechroinus of Rosh Hashanah, kihu b'chinas zikaron nitzchi, because it's an everlasting remembrance. It's not just a one-time thing that says over there. The very fact that we say this every single year on Rosh Hashanah about the remembrance that Hashem remembered Noach, that means that this is something that's ongoing. Shu kosher im etzen neshamas Yisrael, that it's connected with the very essence of neshamas Yisrael, and that's why we are saying it on Rosh Hashanah, evoking our essential connection, that Hashem should remember that our essential connection with Him. Like it's explained in the Ramar with Rebbe Rashab. Now, Rosh Hashanah, we know, is something that is true. It's only once a year, but from Rosh Hashanah, it then trickles out and becomes revealed later on. The Indians, that matter, which is in a level of, says, Bakesa liyom chagenu, what's the meaning of the word kesed? That's something that's concealed. So something that's covered over on Rosh Hashanah. This idea of the zikaron, this idea of the remembrance that Hashem has, that's connected with the very essence of Neshamas Yisrael, is concealed in Rosh Hashanah. It comes down afterward in the cloud of the incense, like we said before, it takes place on Yom Kippur. That Yom Kippur is called the one day of the year. To such a degree that from the 100 sounds of the shofar blast that we have on Rosh Hashanah comes down into the schach of the sukkah. Schach b'gematria meah. Schach is the numerical equivalent of 100. Asher HaSukkah nikras shem al shem schach. The sukkah is called that way because of its covering, because of its schach. Top of the next page, the last page, Vayidei zeh zoichim b'karav mamish leishe b'sukkasi b'sukkas Eirish Rav Yosin. Through this we merit to sit very speedily in the sukkah, in the shelter made from the Levyosin hide, Sukkah Shalom, the Sukkah of peace, with Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, in the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. So the Rebbe adds, "V'nin his bar leil" was explained previously. Kasher Gavnei Akesher Zein Behir, when the colors of the rainbow are luminous and bright, Tzarich Litzpes L'Raglo Shel Mashiach, we have to await the footsteps of Mashiach. So Befrat Beikus of the Mashiach, especially on the heels of Mashiach, Kasher Motur Raglim Beraglim, that the feet meet up with the feet, meaning the feet is the lowest most levels, And that is the avodah that we do in a way of just Kabbalah's oil, in a way of just doing like we are the feet. So then we meet up with like the feet of Mashiach. And the Rebbe connects it in the brackets, the Inyan Haraglin Kosher Gamin Inyan Gimel Regolim. The idea of feet is also connected with the three pilgrimage festivals that are called Regolim, from the word regel, because it's a time when we used to go up by foot. Then it was when the Yidden rose up, went up for Yom Tov to the Beis HaMikdash. When Mashiach comes, it says, this will take place every Shabbos and every Rosh Chodesh, where we will go to the Beis HaMikdash. Like it's brought down the Yalkut Shemoini, skip the parentheses, line 12. Then when Mashiach comes, we will go to the Beis HaMikdash every Shabbos and every Rosh Chodesh. This will be through the clouds of Kedusha. Like it says, Mi Eila, who are these Ka'av Teifena, like a cloud that flies, and like the doves or the pigeons back to their dove coats, their coops, etc. Shehiu va'oru and mananishmaya. There will be that behold that they are there with the clouds of heaven. When we're coming back to what he's saying before the brackets, he was talking about when the feet, when we're holding by the lowest level, we're at the level of the feet. Then we have to meet up with the feet of Mashiach. We have to look forward to the feet of Mashiach. To look to Beis Yisrael, that speedily it will be that you will be collected one by one, the house of Yisrael. Every single Yid will come on his own with the clouds of heaven. To go up to the Beis HaMikdash. Just like he comes to see godliness, so too he comes to be seen. Begilui becomes in a revealed way. Begula mitzvah shleima, in the true and complete redemption. When those that taste of it will merit life. We learn out from the pasuk that says that those who taste from the food of Shabbos on Erev Shabbos, they merit life. The same thing now is we're like Friday afternoon. Mashiach's times is like Shabbos, Yom Shekuli Shabbos Menucha. So even now we have to taste from every cooked item that will be when Mashiach comes. Therefore, even before Mashiach comes, it has to be that your kings will be your nursemaids, will be your trainers, will be your teachers, and will be your educators. Until we will merit speedily to the true and complete redemption. Behold there with the clouds of heaven, through Mashiach Tzidkenu.